Sandra Wilkins slammed on her brakes when the police lights flashed behind her BMW. Late for her charity board meeting, where she was the guest of honor, Sandra was already texting excuses when Officer Martinez approached her window. "License and registration," he said calmly. Sandra's perfectly manicured finger pointed at him. "Do you have any idea who I just had lunch with? The mayor would be very interested to know you're harassing his donors in school zones." Officer Martinez's body camera captured what would later become a viral sensation, Sandra alternating between Sairupi's sweet persuasion and venomous threats, calling 3 different connections on speakerphone while refusing to provide documentation. When she attempted to drive away mid-conversation, Officer Martinez's professional demeanor never cracked, even as Sandra's designer purse spilled open during her arrest, revealing not just her deliberately hidden license, but also a small bag of pills that definitely weren't vitamins. The online comment section would later debate which was more satisfying, the click of the handcuffs or Sandra's mascara-streaked realization that the mayor's office wasn't answering her call. Diane Coleman's daughter's wedding was going perfectly until that officious little man with a badge began ticketing the luxury vehicles parked along the fire lane outside the venue. "This is a $75,000 event," Diane shrieked, champagne flute still in hand as she charged across the street. "Those are Range Rovers and Benzes, not garbage trucks." What Officer Taylor couldn't have anticipated was Diane's rapid mobilization of an army of equally outraged wedding guests, creating an impromptu protest in formal wear. His body camera captured Diane's increasingly theatrical performance, including her lying across the hood of her SUV to prevent the tow truck from ruining her baby's special day. The wedding photographer, instructed to capture only happy memories, couldn't resist documenting the mother of the bride being escorted to a police cruiser, her fascinator askew, still insisting that fire hydrants are decorative anyway. "When was the last time you saw a fire here?" The bride's tearful plea, "Mom, please, just move the car," was drowned out by Diane's declaration that this violation of wedding etiquette would be taken all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. The Brick House Grill had survived the pandemic through careful adherence to local health ordinances, but manager Rebecca Morgan had reached her breaking point. "The government control ends here," she announced, ripping her mask off and throwing it dramatically onto the grill where it burst into flames, setting off the smoke alarm and automatically dispatching officers Patel and Johnson. What followed was Rebecca's masterclass in misquoting constitutional amendments, performed to a captive audience of uncomfortable diners just trying to enjoy their burgers. Her phone, propped against a ketchup bottle, live-streamed the entire confrontation to her 17 followers. "Jefferson and Washington didn't wear masks," she declared, pointing a spatula at Officer Patel, "and neither would Jesus." The officers maintained remarkable composure, especially when Rebecca attempted a citizen's arrest on them for violating the Magna Carta, a document she admitted she hadn't actually read but knew all about from Facebook. Her parting words as she was escorted out, "Your fries were frozen anyway," became the restaurant's new tongue-in-cheek slogan after video of the incident doubled their business the following week. Eleanor Simmons didn't just run the Maple Street Homeowners Association, she embodied it. Armed with a measuring tape, clipboard, and an encyclopedic knowledge of bylaws, Eleanor patrolled her domain daily. The Martinez family's basketball hoop was just the latest battle in her war against neighborhood degradation. First it's basketball hoops, then it's clotheslines, then before you know it, we're living in absolute anarchy, she explained to an increasingly perplexed Officer Washington. Eleanor produced a 3-ring binder containing photographs of the Martinez family's other violations: Christmas decorations left up until January 3rd, a mailbox 1 shade darker than regulation, and suspicious gatherings that others might call weekend barbecues. Officer Washington's suggestion that these weren't police matters only convinced Eleanor he was part of the deep state HOA conspiracy. When she attempted to make a citizen's arrest by handcuffing herself to his patrol car door handle, Officer Washington discovered that Eleanor's reign of suburban terror had victimized half the neighborhood, including the police chief's sister. Her indignant protests as she was removed from the neighborhood watch, I'm the only thing standing between us and lawn flamingos. Failed to generate the sympathy she expected. Victoria Hayes stormed into North Tech Electronics with a mission. The wireless headphones she'd purchased half a year ago had stopped working after she accidentally ran them through the washing machine, and she demanded justice. The warranty doesn't specifically exclude washing machines, she insisted to the increasingly distressed teenage clerk, whose repeated explanations about water damage only fueled Victoria's outrage. By the time Officer Lewis arrived, Victoria had established an impromptu courtroom at the customer service desk, encouraging other shoppers to bring their complaints forward in what she called a class action right here and now. Her legal credentials, she explained, came from watching every episode of Law and Order twice. When Officer Lewis suggested she leave, Victoria declared the store a corrupt corporate entity stealing from hardworking Americans, and herself the people's champion of consumer rights. Her revolutionary fervor peaked when she attempted to seize the means of production by climbing behind the counter to access the register herself. The security footage of Victoria lecturing Officer Lewis about maritime law while being escorted out, "You can't arrest me because that's a gold-fringed flag, making this a naval jurisdiction," became required viewing at the police academy's de-escalation training. In each case, 22 minutes of defiance produced years of consequences: community service, legal fees, and the special humiliation that comes from family members forwarding links with the message, "Isn't this you?" These 5 incidents serve as cautionary tales that in the battle between entitled indignation and legal authority, the law usually has the last laugh, and sometimes, so does the internet.